Burnley 0, Chelsea 2. Chelsea up to second. Shaq, this is one of these games, and I saw a few Chelsea fans commenting before the game, don't care how we played, just get 3 points. It's the early kickoff after an international break. Cole Palmer stubbed his toe. He's out. Caicedo's not starting. He's on the bench. Chelsea won it, got the 3 points, scored twice. How did they play?
They played okay, I guess, against a Burnley team that is struggling down the bottom of the table. Even though this game was at Turf Moor and Burnley, I didn't think that Burnley threatened an awful lot. And I guess it's probably easier to start with Burnley in that I thought, particularly in the first half, they passed the ball well, but never threatened. And you can see why Burnley are as close to the bottom as they are. In fact, I say somewhat tongue-in-cheek, the biggest Burnley opportunity came when Sanchez decided to kick the ball into the back of Enzo Fernandez. So for all Burnley's good passing, certainly in the back and middle thirds, it translated to nothing in terms of meaningful efforts on goal. For Chelsea, to your point, you take the win. That's the only thing that mattered. Coming out of an international break, with players flying to pretty much literally all four corners of the planet to represent their countries. A big week to come, both in Europe and in the Premier League. You take this win however it comes, and playing somebody like Burnley near the bottom is probably exactly what Enzo Maresca and Chelsea wanted and needed and got. In the end, they got the 2 goals in either half, never really looked troubled, really well worked goals. Head back to West London and think nothing of it.
As they say, 3 points and up the road or down the road in this case, especially with Barcelona to come. It would have been easy to take your eye off Burnley and focus on midweek, but that's not what happened. We'll get to the goals in a second. I want to start, though, with an incident that took place in the 26th minute. And Robert Sanchez looks like he takes the goal kick, plays it to Trevoh Challobah, who then picks it up and replaces the ball at the edge of the 6-yard box. Now, this is similar to an incident which happened a year ago in the Champions League, and it was in Belgium. It's Club Brugge against Aston Villa. Emi Martinez kicks the ball out and doesn't get outside the 18-yard box, but he plays it to Tyrone Mings, who's like, I don't fancy this. I'm going to pick the ball up, and I'm going to replace it at the edge of the 6-yard box to take the goal kick. Referee in that game gave a penalty for a handball. Should the referee in this game have given a penalty against Trevoh Challobah for picking the ball up?
Well, I'm going to sit firmly on the fence here because I think a year ago and the incident that you mentioned with Aston Villa and Club Brugge, I think was split right down the middle, and I think similarly it would be split right down the middle on this one. But also I'll echo a lot of these sentiments that people like me and just football fans in general echoed 12 months ago. You could say, yeah, referee, just use your common sense. I'm not sure that Challobah thought that the goal kick was being taken. He kind of wanted to place it in the corner of the box. I think Sanchez, when he touches it off, he thinks, yeah, I'm taking this as a goal kick. But I think, again, I think you poll 100 people, 50 say, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it just being a goal kick, and 50 kind of screaming there should have been a penalty. There's precedent to it. Listen, I think this kind of leans into a couple of things. One, I think refereeing is always a little bit more harsh in Europe, and secondly, how games are refereed. As many laws as we may try to write, and as watertight as we may try to write them, it still comes down to the man in the middle, how he feels the game is going, and I stand by that. The man in the middle ultimately makes that decision. So I looking at the game today, and as the incident played out, I had no problem with the referee kind of waving it away and saying, "Listen, this is a goal kick. Let's get on with it." I knew what would come after, regardless. But still, I'm I'm happy. I'm happy with the decision. If the referee decided to give a penalty, I'd say, yeah, it was well within his right to as well.
That is why one day I can see you as president of Trinidad and Tobago, because you don't want to upset anybody. You can see both
No,
sides.
let me tell a story. So as
Okay.
I've often mentioned, I served on one of the advisory panels to IFAB, and Colina, the ex-Italian referee, was on that panel, and I always remember him saying, "You have to leave the final decision to the referee on the park." And this is when we were discussing VAR. This is how long ago it was. It was before the introduction of VAR. And he was insistent that you have to leave the final decision to the referee on the park. And to use his terminology, it's like he's the guy who had the smell of the game, is what he said, and kind of gave it some of that. He had the smell of the game. And so the point being, he did not want somebody in some faraway booth behind a television screen to be the to be the final arbiter on any decision, right? I know, again, I know that happens far too often, even in today's game. I'm with Kalina on this. VAR review, send it to the man on the park, let him give a final decision, because he, again, to use his term, has the smell of the game. And this is just one of those situations that,
Mhm.
again, Villa Brugge is one thing, Chelsea Burnley is another. And you trust the referee on the park to have the feel of the game in making those decisions.
I get that. And I think the feel of the game here was the referee made the right decision. It's not
Yeah,
like he was closed down and he's like, oh no, what am I going to do? I need to pick it up and pretend I
correct.
want to take it again. There was no pressure whatsoever. Today seemed to me, again, subjective, to be the common sense decision.
Hmm.
Last time out in Belgium, penalty was awarded. You take a chance. You take a
Yeah, an
chance. That,
opinion was
that's what.
split right down the
Yeah,
middle with
it
that one.
was.
It
It,
really
it
was.
was. It
Hmm.
was. Now, the opening goal. First of all, what have you made of Jamie Gittins? Right, because he's come in, took a little bit of time to settle. He's put the ball in, probably looking for Enzo. But what a run by Pedro Neto, who's in form right now. Brilliant diving header, coming in at the
Hmm.
back post, giving the goalkeeper no chance. Really good delivery. It doesn't really matter. It's more putting it into an area, whether it's aimed at
Yeah.
Enzo or whatever. And there's Pedro Neto with a brilliant finish.
Yeah, I listen. Gittins, I thought, despite a slow start to his time at Chelsea, kind of emerging in, and this shows the value of having a deep squad, especially at weeks like this, post international break, as we'd mentioned. And you're right. I thought the ball was a good one. I thought the build up was a good one on
Yeah.
Chelsea's part to start with, and then you drop inside on your right foot, and you're looking for that cross, and you realize you've got two players to hit at that far post. And while your initial, who was the initial target you mentioned?
Enzo was the initial target.
Enzo,
He
while
didn't jump
Enzo is
properly.
there, while Enzo is there, you know you can overcook it a little
Yeah.
because Neto's coming around far post. So whereas if it was Enzo was the only one there, you have to get that perfect. You may underhit it slightly and the defender gets a touch on the clearance, but you know that if you overhit it slightly, Pedro comes in far post. So you can it gives you that little option to put a little bit more on the board just to make sure you miss out the defender. And once you miss that defender, somebody's going to score. So I thought it was a good understanding of where he was, a good recognition of the run of Neto. And as a result, it dictated his delivery, which he executed wonderfully well. So I thought, really, I thought it was a wonderfully worked goal by Chelsea. And applause all around, especially when you see Neto, who, right, whether he's the primary target or not, when you
Mhm.
see how far he comes from to get on the end of that, to give Gittins that option to overcook it just a little. Credit to him.
Still waiting to find out if there's an injury, a significance of the injury to Reece James, but hopefully not, because that kid just can't buy any luck
Yeah.
whatsoever. It wasn't Malo Gusto that came on at halftime. It was Benoit Badiashile that came on. And Chelsea didn't start the first half great, but the second half, they pretty much controlled a lot of
Yeah.
it. And they hit the post through Pedro Neto. Then they got their second goal late on. Mark Guillot getting away down the right-hand side. Again, good build-up, cutting it back. Enzo with the finish. It was like for Burnley today, the first goal was crucial. If they could keep it tight and frustrate Chelsea, but once Chelsea got that goal, they kind of had Burnley at arm's length. It doesn't really matter whether you think it was a 2-goal game or whatever. It's 3 points for Chelsea. It's a very professional performance.
Yeah, I thought exactly that. And to your point, yeah, for Burnley to get anything out of this, they needed to score. But Burnley, as I mentioned before, didn't look like they had it in their arsenal to score against Chelsea. So it was just about Chelsea being tight, being secure, making sure that Burnley, making sure that they don't make any mistakes. First of all, to give Burnley either the lead or the way back into the game. And I mentioned the Sanchez error early on, tongue in cheek. The Chelsea second goal comes from build-up play that starts with Sanchez all the way at the back, and they play out to that Burnley pressure, and it's Chelsea who later on get numbers forward, and Enzo scores. I thought Chelsea controlled the second half really well. I thought they were very in possession. They got their wing backs high up the park. They played this very expansive game and invited the pressure from Burnley. When Burnley had the ball, they just got tight and in recognizing that Burnley couldn't hit them down the wide areas. And I just thought Chelsea managed the game so wonderfully well. So yeah, Chelsea did not blow Burnley out to the water, and you mentioned that the second goal coming very late on, but it was always controlled. It never looked other than an individual error that Burnley would score, and I think give Chelsea credit for that. But certainly, if you're a Chelsea fan, you're appreciative of that. If you're neutral, you think, oh, Chelsea could have done a whole lot better. But if you're sitting in that dressing room, or let me put it this way, Enzo Maresca, I think, is very happy with the way Chelsea managed that second half in particular.
As football fans, we always enjoy the good moments, but then we look back and say, oh, if only we'd beaten Sunderland at home, having lost by 2-1, where would they be right now? So where are Chelsea right now? Up to second in the table. Are they title contenders?
I still don't think so. I still think Chelsea are the fourth best team in the league, behind the usual suspects. In which order? Take your choice. But I think Chelsea right now are still the fourth best team in the league. But this was a big performance, and as was mentioned in the commentary certainly here, I think psychologically now you're sitting second in the table. There are games to come for the rest, but not just the rest of today, but the rest of the weekend. But you're sitting second in the table. Psychologically, that means an incredible amount to you. It sends a message to everybody else on the table that yes, we're still here. We're still to be reckoned with. There may be somebody sitting in his house somewhere thousands of miles away, foolishly saying that we're the fourth best team in the league, but we are here and we are to be taken seriously. And again, Chelsea have learned that.
What a week for Chelsea coming up. Barcelona at home in the Champions League. But I want to focus on their next Premier League game. It's Arsenal at home next weekend. If Chelsea beats Arsenal, then what?
Well, we have a real title race on our hands. I maintain, and while I said Chelsea are fourth, and I think behind the usual three, I think, as of right now, Arsenal are the best team in the league. Chelsea fourth, as I say, and then take a pick between City and Liverpool pretty much. Personally, I think City are second, Liverpool third. But Chelsea all of a sudden gets a result. I think that opens the door for Manchester City. That opens the door for Liverpool. And it not only opens the door, I mean, it is Chelsea kicking open the door, screaming that, yeah, we are here and we have to be taken seriously. This is a huge game for Chelsea. They can make an incredible noise next weekend.
After that game, here's the 6 games in the Premier League that Chelsea will play in December. Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton, Newcastle, Villa, and Bournemouth again. Not a bad run of fixtures.
Not a bad run at all. Certainly the trigger's of those guys, I may be biased, but Newcastle, who are not enjoying a good run of form themselves. But on paper, those games are there to be won for Chelsea. and should be won by Chelsea. But as the old cliche goes, the game isn't played on paper. That's the only difficulty for Chelsea here. That you go into this run of games expecting you are expected to win them. And if you don't, those are big points against those opponents, the form that they're in, the positions in the table that they're in, those are big points to drop.
So Cole Palmer was back training. And then on Wednesday, he stubs his toe at home. And he's out today against Barca and against Arsenal. Mr. Hislop's household over the years, has Shaka ever tripped over the dog or done something silly that kept you out of games or ESPN FC?
No. Thank goodness. I don't have those stories. The stub toe or the bottle of salad cream that drops in your instep, and I don't have any of those stories. Thankfully, I've got small dogs. I've got 2 dogs that weigh a total of 16 pounds between them, added up. I'm not tripping on any of them little things.
Okay. It reminds me of Kirk Broadfoot, the former Rangers player, tried to microwave an egg and it exploded when he took it out, and that was him out for a while. But look, things can happen. Cole Palmer will be back.
Apparently.
Don't microwave eggs or do silly things. Let's end with Burnley. Burnley, Sunderland, and Leeds were the 3 teams that came up. We thought there might be one of them staying up. Sunderland right now look most likely.
Sunderland, yeah.
Exactly.
If there's one, it's Sunderland. Sunderland know who they are. Sunderland know who they are. They're very well organized.
They've signed well.
They're physical. Absolutely, they know who they are. As I mentioned about Burnley, I thought very good footballing team. Scott Parker, I guess, has them playing that way. That's how they got promoted, but just far too lightweight up front, and that's a challenge. And then what you saw, especially from Chelsea in the second half, is you can pass out of that pressure. You know, they try to press you high up the park, especially if they fall behind, and Chelsea made very easy work. And maybe I'm not giving Chelsea enough credit, but Chelsea made easy work of passing out of that pressure. Never really seemed in any real danger. That's not a good formula for success, for staying up.
No, Wolves are bottom. They're at home today against Palace. Forest second bottom go to Liverpool, and your old boys, West Ham, at Bournemouth. West Ham finish above Burnley, don't they?
They should. If they don't, they're going down.